Dans
Good morning, everybody. Hello and welcome. Sorry, I I just distracted myself. I forgot to do something. But I hope everyone's doing well. Um, let me I cannot multitask. Well, I can, but I'm not doing so well multitasking right now. Let me share this really quick. Um, Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good. Okay. So, welcome. Again, just rambling about the tarot, one of my favorite topics, favorite explorations, favorite adventures. And I just do what I do. I shuffled and I focused on, you know, conversational pieces, like what do we need to talk about today? What can we benefit from conversation wise, and this is the card. This is the card that chose to appear today, and it's another swords card. And I feel it's appropriate. It's another swords card. A lot of mental stuff lately. A lot of overthinking. A lot of analyzing. A lot of just theorizing. All of the things, right? Our brains are really they're going full force, even when we feel like they're not. They're still kind of doing their thing. They're processing, unpacking, and all the stuff, and it can be overwhelming. And so the Eight of Swords here, you can just, and before I get into it, I will also say, like, a lot of people, like, I can't memorize the tarot. You don't have to. Like, I don't feel like you're supposed to. I think with time and experience, and age, or guess, investment into learning, unfolding that, you start to build familiarity with the card, and you understand what it means. But I don't think that you're supposed to memorize. You're supposed to be able to tap into it, look at the imagery, feel what you feel, pick up what you pick up, and train yourself, like, oh, this different aspects of the cards, right? Oh, in numerology, this is what is associated with the eight, or swords are air. That's the elemental force of air, and this is what this means, and this is what I see in the card. So I feel like you're supposed to be able to look at a card and pull from different spaces. You don't have to memorize anything. You just have to set yourself up with tools that help you pull information, right? So don't ever feel like, oh, I can't memorize. You can explore a card. Doesn't You don't have to memorize. So with the Eight of Swords, we can look at it and see. We see a big old, like, house, or community behind. We see kind of a sort of self-imposed bondage. You see the swords in line. You see dried up water, right? Not a lot of water, but it's still going to be not fun to walk on, right? And so we see a lot of that. And to me, it's like, okay, if there's water, there's emotion, there's flow, but it's drying up. So it's kind of like, oh, I feel some type of way emotionally, but like I'm really trying to analyze this. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to feel it. And so, like, the bandage on the head, and feeling like restricted, there's a lot of things going on here, and we can use that to formulate a response, right? When I'm ready, I can, like, I can, free myself from what I don't want to have to deal with mentally. Um, and so if we look at my little notes here, the Eight of Swords embodies the element of air, representing the realm of the mind, our conflicts and moral dilemmas we navigate. Air challenges us to cut through confusion with clarity and intellect, urging us to seek truth and engage in the mental gymnastics that lead to wisdom. And so I think one of the benefits with the Eight of Swords today is like, you know what, we're going through it, whatever. Again, everyone has their own story, not to minimize anyone's situation. We all have our own stuff that we go through, and I think that we just need to remind ourselves that we do have the strength. Well, hello, dragon dancer, welcome, welcome. We do have the strength to process the information that we are being given. We might not want to process it, right? We might want to escape, but we can see in the card, if we seek to escape, that's just self-imposed, and it's more, it just brings more challenge, more mental stress than we need. And so I feel like with with the Eight of Swords, it's like, okay, let me be aware. Let me take a breather. Let me take a moment to tune in and process mentally like what I have to deal with or what I'm going through. Let me also be aware that this is going to be emotional. So I'm gonna have to be probably a little uncomfortable processing emotions, but let me think about this and set myself up for the understanding that I'm going to be working with emotion here, and I can do this, right? And we also take the influence, like decan wise. The Eight of Swords is the first decan, sorry, the first decan of um, Gemini. Oh my gosh, why did that take me like 500 years, y'all? It's the first decan of Gemini, the Eight of Swords, which is Jupiter in Gemini. And so we can take into consideration that sort of layer, right? And we can take what we understand about Gemini, what we understand about Jupiter, what Jupiter brings to Gemini, and again, very, very general signification of Jupiter is expansion, growth, like wisdom, higher learning, education. And Gemini is all about the air, like so much air here. And we can get caught up in all the thinking, right? We can get up, we can, oh yeah, we can get up, we can get caught up in all of the mental stuff. We can get so caught up, and it makes me think of like a hot air balloon. You know, if you keep putting like, or just a balloon, not a hot air balloon, but just a balloon, if you keep blowing air into it, it's gonna pop, right? Our head will explode. Honestly, it feels that way, right? When we have so many things that plague the mind, when we have so many things that we think about, we have so many things that we worry about, and there's a lot of mental stuff going on, and it's just very, I get overstimulated, right? I get overstimulated, overwhelmed. And we know that there can be a challenge here to learn when to like release things. I feel like with the Eight of Swords here, it's also saying with the Jupiter Gemini connection, it's learning to kind of project outward. This is like when it's a good time to project, right? To project outward so we can work through something that's not in our head. So we take what's in our head, right? We take our situation, whatever we're going through, and we kind of project it outward, because we're talking about an air card. This very well could be like, let me communicate, let me go to therapy if I can afford that, let me talk to a friend. It very well could be, let me audibly work through this situation so that I don't hold it in my headspace and it like plague me. Does that make sense? And so I feel like this is something that's being expressed as well, is the importance of like projecting, the importance of working it not internally. So we take time to process internally. We take time to like really understand what we're going through. And then from that point, we expand outward and we start to take action. We start to work through things in a very like mundane and physical way. So it's not just piling up, right? Let me get a little sip. Does that make sense, y'all? Let me get a little sip. Um But you can see you can see where there's just a lot of thought here. There's a lot of head stuff. There's a lot of thinking. There's a lot of mental programming. There's a lot of I'm in my head. And so like when you're in your head, right? When you're thinking all the things, when you're just like you realize like, oh wow, I'm spending a lot of time here in this space, and I'm not really showing up in the present moment. What are some tools that what can you do? Like obviously one of the things I said is you can go talk to someone, if that's possible. Other things is like mentally stimulate yourself by doing something, like a puzzle, right? So do a puzzle, or do a word thing, or do anything that's going to sort of like mentally stimulate you but take you out of being in your head and putting it outward, right? So because like when we're doing puzzles, or whether it's like a crossword, um whatever, any type of puzzle, we're using our brain, we're using our mental faculties, but we're also releasing it. Okay. And so I think that's something that's very beneficial here to be aware of, is to utilize that to our advantage, because we don't want our heads to explode. Yeah, writing, painting, yes, I like that. Absolutely. And the Eight of Sword prompts us to reflect on times when we felt mentally trapped or restricted by our own overthinking. I do this all the time. And I know that we can get into a space where we're just overwhelmed by what we think. It serves as a critical reminder that while our thoughts and ideas have the power to expand our horizons, they can also build invisible cages. Whew, that one's a lot. And that's, I think, where we're at here. It's like, okay, the Eight of Swords is it's a beautiful card, because it's this understanding that I have power, right? But it's what I choose to do with this power that sets the tone. So I am powerful, I am strong, I am mentally like fit, but it is how I direct this energy that will set the tone for what I experience next. And I feel like we need to kind of maybe explore for ourselves what invisible, like what sort of mental prison am I setting myself, in? What am I mentally putting myself in? What cage? What am I restricting? What am I denying myself? Right? Because again, you can look at the card and you see there's a restriction here. There is this sort of like prison, but it's not in a way where it's super trappy. It's just like it's here. We're not moving. We can if we wanted to, because there's nothing in front of us where we can't walk towards or walk behind. We can move, if we choose. And so it's more so the understanding that it is my choice to move. It is my choice to think differently. It is my choice to set myself up for success. And I need to reach, for again, I need to reach for the best feeling thoughts that I can, that are available to me, to work with, to get me out of this situation that I'm in. So what am I holding on to mentally, like thought wise? What am I thinking or holding space for in my mental faculties? What am I holding space for that is preventing me from exploring something, moving forward? What is holding me back right now? And if I think it's about me, like if I think it's my thoughts, right? My thoughts and my headspace that's holding me back right now, what are those thoughts? And we can reverse engineer, if we're thinking about things a lot, and if we recognize like we're being held back, and a lot of what is holding us back is our own thoughts about something. Well, what are those thoughts? you know where do they come from? And how can I bulldoze through through them? Let me utilize the beauty of Jupiter and Gemini energy, and find a sort of elevated way to think differently that is going to usher in a new pattern for me, so I can then free myself from what I'm going through. this cage here that I place around myself, whether it was protective or not, is no longer necessary for me. I want to explore moving forward and feeling better. And in order for me to do that, I need to release myself from the sort of shackles. I need to release myself from this sort of cold space that I'm in. Okay. And yeah, that's what's kind of that's what's popping up today. If you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, feel free to respond. If you're watching a recording of this later on, feel free to let me know your thoughts as well. But there's just a little bit about the Eight of Swords today, and why it's popping up. It really is time to understand how our thinking, how our thoughts, our beliefs, as and I will ooh, okay, I'm not leaving just yet. I will also say it's it's the company we keep, okay? So it's the thoughts, like the people we keep, the situations we're around, the things that we feed ourselves. Um and I'm not just talking like food, I'm talking about like media and all that stuff, conversations we have. All of those things that are associated with the air element, that communication, right? Um, that influences us. That influences us. So when we have people around us who are extremely ignorant, but we've been friends for so long, and they're really good people. No, honey, they're not good people. They're good to you. I've I'm not gonna say loss because I don't feel like it's a loss. It's unfortunate, but I've shed a lot of relationships and a lot of friends because when things are clear, when people like what's the term, like grandfather you in, or they make an exception for you, but they don't make an exception for anyone else. So it's like, oh no, you're like my token queer, you're my token gay friend, but I don't like gay people, right? When people act like that, and we all know that, when people behave like that, oh my gosh, I'm stuttering, uh it tells us something. And so it's like, no, you might treat me well, but behind, closed doors, or when I'm not there, you're still talking about me or my people or my communities, right? In a negative way, in a disrespectful way, in a harmful way. And so I'm not going to entertain that. Right. And I think that that's so important for us to recognize, like, well, no, we've been really good friends and they're great people. And it's like, to you, but how they treat other people, how they talk about others, that's important information as well. I'm not saying y'all should break relationships. That's your choice. Like it's my choice to stand my ground. And I've shed a lot of unfortunately a lot of really good friendships, I thought, but when you believe something about my communities that's harmful and you tell people that they deserve to be harmed or they don't deserve to exist, I can't stand by that, right? I don't care how long we've been associated with. I don't care how like deep our friendship is. If we cannot shift that, like we're not cool. And with the Eight of Swords, it kind of brings that to light. It's like the company we keep is so important, and then recognizing, like, I don't want to deal with this because these are people who I thought were for me, and maybe they're for me specifically, but they're not for me, my community, my peoples. And so it's like, I do have to deal with this. I have to see the situation for what it clearly is, and I have to choose responsibly for myself. I have to make these investments and these choices, because if I continue to allow this moving forward, I'm perpetuating a stereotype. I'm perpetuating harm and ignorance, and I can't, right? I choose not to. That's not what I'm about. I hope that makes sense. And that just went like a little deeper, right? So like I hope that makes sense, but that's kind of what we're dealing with today, or what we're the thought of today, like what we can kind of start thinking about moving forward. Where am I holding myself back? What sort of thoughts, mental stuff is associated with that? And what can I do? to release that, to move forward. And a lot of it is taking the mental stuff that we're going through, or the thoughts, or the whatever, and expressing it in the physical, and physically like working it out, right? And actually, before I actually finally leave, that's one thing that I used to do a lot, is like when I would think too much, or when I would like have this like maybe negative thought, I would work out. I would take that thought, and I would do like maybe some intense cardio, lift weights, but I would have this sort of mental connect where, as I physically worked out and I sweat, that sweat was releasing, this thought process. That sweat was releasing these problematic things. And so like after I felt good, endorphins, but after I felt good, but after I also felt a little more clear as to like what how I would handle a situation. And that was one thing that I did. There's so many different things you can do, but take that mental stuff and physically like do something with it, work it through it, whether again like that be therapy, whether that be like a puzzle, a word thing, mental stimulation in the physical world, as you process these things that you feel are holding you back. So yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. That's what's coming up for the day. Thank you so much for allowing me to ramble. I really do appreciate it. I love the tarot. I love sharing what I learn, what I pick up, and I think it's fun. So I do appreciate everyone showing up and being here. I will ask you if you would find me on Patreon, patreon.com/slash the house of or patreon.com/slash house of Blackthorn. Sign up as a free member. And you get like when I do these, you'll get notice as well. Sometimes Facebook doesn't notify you until like 20 minutes in, and we're almost done. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I will talk to you most likely tomorrow. So take care. Okay, bye.